The standoff between public service and administration department and the public sector unions over wage negotiations is, of course, getting to a stalemate. Government has come up with a revised offer of a one-time payoff to offset increases in the new financial year. But will unions accept this offer, and can it end the impasse? To discuss this, I am joined by the Public Servants Association's General Manager, Ruben Maleka, SAFTU's General Secretary, Zwelenzima Vavi, and of course, COSATU's Mike Shinganga. Of course, they are all three here in the studio. Zwelenzima, let me start with you. There's a lot of confusion about whether the state can or can't afford this amount. People are banding 30.2 billion rand around. This matter is also at the courts. From where SAFTU is sitting, is this figure accurate, and more importantly, is it true, the narrative that the state cannot afford this amount of money?
Let's go back to the World Bank report of 2015. They have this to say about the public sector size and remuneration in all countries. They're saying that the issue of whether the size is bad or good doesn't arise because the size and the remuneration level is a political decision of any government in the world. Now, if you drill down that statement and you look at how South Africa's public service in terms of size compares with the rest of the world, you will realize that we only have 9% of the labor force of South Africa in the public service, whereas in the industrialized world, they have 17% of public servants constituting the labor force of their own respective country. If you go to Sweden and Norway, the size of the public service is 30% of the entire labor force. So this issue that we have a bloated public service and therefore there's a crisis is a political choice. Government have chosen neoliberalism and now is embarking upon austerity, and it is trying to resolve the crisis it has created, including the crisis of the capitalist system at the back of workers. And therefore, we are rejecting this notion that government can sign binding agreements with the unions and willy-nilly jump out of them, and they're citing the reasons such as we have too many public service, we're spending too much money on the public service. What government should be talking about now is we've been exposed so terribly by the coronavirus that we have chronic staff shortages in our public schools, in our public hospitals, our police, according to the commissioner that we're speaking about just now. He says that we're running short of 60,000 police officials in the country. If you go to our correctional services centers, they are all overwhelming with the numbers that completely outstrip the numbers of correctional services officials in those centers. So the issue that we are bloated is a political statement. It's an ideological statement that the government have chosen to make. And despite the fact that even the World Bank is on their side, and despite the fact that, the president himself and various emissaries have had to concede from time to time that the notion of service is bloated is just not true.
Okay, hold that thought. Let me bring your colleagues in. Mike from COSATU. The offer that the government has put on the table to kind of give you guys a once-off payment, is that a SOP, and are you rejecting it, or is it something that you are seriously considering? In today's City Press, there's an article here that says how Mutambi cooked public sector wage crisis, and it said the former minister is accused of leaving the Ramaphosa administration with a suffocating salary bill after entering into side discussions with trade unions. Is this an accurate article? Did you have side conversations with the minister, and did you go over and above what she was allowed to negotiate with you from Treasury?
No, that's not accurate. Firstly, when the agreement was signed in 2018, Faith was not the Minister of Public Service. Ayanda Dlodlo was. So this notion that they have always been putting on Faith Muthambe as the one that brought the public service bill to why it is incorrect. That's the first thing. The second thing, that there is no wage agreement in public service that gets signed, particularly when a deadlock will have established without it going through the parliament. The cabinet, sorry. Yes. And in the cabinet, all ministers sit there, including the Minister of Finance. That's one. But two, there's what is called mandating committee, the public service, which is formed by a number of ministers, not less than 7 ministers sits there. So there's no one minister that can make a decision to get government into a commitment that the cabinet did not approve. That's the first thing. So that article is inaccurate. It's a view that has been pushed by the Minister of Finance. Unfortunately, the Minister of Public Service and Administration, that is just coming now, but we have over and over again said to them it is not true that what they are raising there. So secondly, we don't know that there's an offer, because remember, we were not expecting to be negotiating a signed agreement. We're expecting implementation of the signed agreement. So there can never be an offer on top of a signed agreement which has already been implemented 2 years. What we know is that we have declared a dispute. We deadlocked at the conciliation. We went to the arbitration. When we had the arbitration, then the state walked out of the arbitration, went to court. Of course, the other unions that have taken them to court, but they filed what they call a counter application, wanting the judge to declare this collective agreement to be unconstitutional and null and therefore unenforceable. That's why all of us are there to defend that thing. Once that process is done, we want the government back at the arbitration so that the commissioner must rule that the agreement is enforceable and therefore the employer is compelled to implement it. So there can never be an offer in the PCBC. We are not at the negotiation level as things stand now. We are in court, we are in arbitration.
Now, this question of whether you are at the negotiating level or not is something that I actually discussed with the Director General, Dondo Mohajani, and I had to remind him that there is a court case and that he's not actually, he can't refer to the fact that the Minister for Public Administration is in negotiations for the union, that there is actually an agreement. The issue is being challenged in court. This new offer, is the PSA aware of it? Or do you support the view from COSATU that it isn't actually a real offer and that it's just more sophistry from the side of the Treasury?
Yeah, thank you, Karima. Yes, indeed. We last week, Sunday, we had a meeting with the Minister for Public Service Administration. He approached us as PSA, and he made an offer of saying, instead of going to court, we accept an offer of saying, for the month of December, the employer pension fund contribution that's supposed to be contributed to the GPF be paid out as a once-off bonus. And that will, clear all the dispute that was supposed to go on. And he wanted that process to be postponed until February. Obviously, we rejected that with contempt. We know very well that we can't, at this point in time, accept anything less than what has been signed by in 2018. In fact, if you look at the resolution of 2018, that was a serious compromise by unions, because it is very less, to an extent that some of us, we do not even sign that resolution, because we believe that it is not adequate, does not give employers anything else. But they are making a mistake, because here where we stand today, they should have been actually been very lucky and be happy that they rather pay less what they already have, which is 4.4%. Because what they've asked for in court is very dangerous. Because they've asked that the court nullifies that agreement. You know what that means? It means that we've got the right to table new demands. And are we going to table 4.4%? No. And if we don't table 4.4% and we table something that is more, it means we can't afford a labor shutdown in this current economic crisis. We can't afford shutdown of when we have coronavirus. It's time that they must understand that they are calling for something that is going to be very dangerous. We call on employer to pay out that resolution, which is less.
Okay, let's hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to look at what the way forward is, or whether we're in fact heading for a strike. Stay with us.